Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabanson. Welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment. We'll give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we have an excellent show for you guys here today. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. And be sure to follow me on Instagram. My handle is CTABANZ. So let's get into today's topic here. Now, not too long ago, we did a show where we were reacting to some comments that were made on the Piers and Morgan show, but I actually had some more thoughts about that particular episode, but we had a lot of NBA content to get to, so I didn't have time to really sit down and produce enough shows about it. But anyway, the show originally was based on the comments that President Donald Trump made about Rob Reiner and his wife that passed. But the title of the episode on Piers Morgan, which got a lot of views, it's almost at 700,000 views now. And the title of the show was Disgusting Donald Trump Scolds Rob Reiner, Bondi Beach Terror with Tony Abbott. So you had that there. But there were other sections of that show that really stood out to me that I wanted to discuss. And this part had to do with Muslim extremism and what Americans feel about it, the general sentiment about it. And there seems to be two schools of thought. One group of people feels like we shouldn't generalize and put all Muslims into one batch. And then there's another school of thought that believes that, look, the religion is just too problematic. It rears too many extremists. And we need to be very careful about having a lot of Muslims in the United States. So as I was watching this segment, things really started to heat up when Jillian Michaels and Roland Martin started to spar over this issue. And I thought it was a pretty interesting back and forth that they had. Of course, Piers Morgan chimed in at various moments. So what we want to do is I want to play this exchange for you guys because I have a lot of thoughts on this that I'd like to share with you guys. And I'll be very interested to see where you guys stand on some of these issues and just basically what you think about what I have to say about it. So take a listen to the sound here.
In Germany, in March, there was a deranged Saudi national who, by the way, became radicalized by AfD and this type of white nationalism and ended up hating Islam. He rammed a truck in a terrorist attack through a crowd. You know who stopped him? A Pakistani Muslim cab driver in Germany stopped him. When there was an attack on Jews in France a couple of years ago, there was an African black immigrant who protected them. This is the story of an individual who decided to lean into empathy and decency and compassion and squared off against two individuals who were radicalized, we don't know how, and saw Jews as the target through their dehumanization. There are 1.7 billion Muslim people on Earth. Jillian's talking points are from 2001, which is why I yawned. The DeLorean right now is in 2025. Listen, I've been in this for a long time, Jill. I know you're just discovering this. Congratulations.
I think I've also.
Let me just finish. Okay. I let you say a lot of hateful, stupid, reckless things about Muslim Islam. I sat there.
Would you like to say one?
I just sat there.
That's 20 million people.
Jillian, you are you
still
by
have
your own
16
admission.
dead,
You by your own admission are a white nationalist. You by your own admission. That's what you are, a white nationalist. You admitted it.
I'm a white I'm Arab, right?
The number
I'm
one
Syrian and Lebanese and Turkish.
Okay, you're the one who said it. I didn't say it. That's why I was shocked.
When did I say I was a white nationalist?
You're not a white nationalist?
When was that?
There was a... Okay, wasn't there a clip that saying you were a white nationalist? You're not a white nationalist.
No.
Okay, interesting. Interesting to know. All right.
Where's the clip that I said I was a white nationalist?
I'm under the mistaken impression. I thought you were a white nationalist. I'm glad you're not. But let me just finish. Okay. Since 2001, Piers, you and I on this
nationalist.
panel. You and I on this panel.
How about a little
Piers.
homework, Wajahat? How about just a little?
All right, let's do homework. Since 2001, Piers, since 2001, you and me, we were against the war on terror. We said that the war on terror would be disastrous. We said that the war on terror, America's response to 19 foreign hijackers bringing down the two towers would be would cause immense chaos, dissension. What happened? America went to war with Iraq and Afghanistan off of terrible evidence, off of the same type of Jillian saying right now. If even 1% of Muslims, yada yada yada. What happened?
It's over all fact-based.
1 million
Do you want me to
Iraqis
cite the
were
resources?
Killed. Over 1 million Iraqis were killed.
Start?
Just Jillian, let me finish. Over 1 million Iraqis were killed. Afghans
Counterterrorism Discourse Intelligence Estimate.
And it led to the radicalization
the European
of ISIS.
Court of Human
It
Rights.
brought nothing but pain and misery and division. Muslims, Jews aren't going anywhere, folks. We're in this together. And what we have to realize is that there are hate mongers who seek to divide us right now, like Jillian, who want to bring up Islamophobia and anti-Semitism.
I'm not
want to get rid of all Muslim immigrants.
All watch hot. You're
no
the
one is
actually
going to leave.
Who has tried to divide us. And your
we have to make a future together. We have to call out the hate. We have to call out the white supremacy, the Islamic extremism, the Jewish supremacy.
How do you address?
We have to call out the terrorism. We have to call out
the people that want to destroy the West.
We have to call out Israel's occupation. We have to call it Israel's occupation and genocide, and we have to call out Hamas
the percentage
and violent extremism
of radical Islam that wants to destroy the West.
Let me bring in Roland.
Just tell me how to address that.
Let me bring in Roland. Roland.
Piers,
you don't have an answer, do you?
Piers, Jillian, I've had to sit here and listen to y'all go back and forth. Can I please make this point?
Please.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Piers. Yes. Last week I was in Montgomery, Alabama, for the 7th anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott. And there is a National Memorial for Peace and Justice and Legacy Museum there that documents, that commemorates the documented 4,400 lynchings in this country. And there were more that took place. As an African American, when I understand what it means when you have a people who have a bullseye on their back, who are being targeted. I understand that. And so it is absolutely shameful that you cannot be at a Hanukkah celebration and it gets interrupted by mass violence because of two evil individuals. But I'm saying two evil individuals for a reason. Because under the legitimate FBI leadership of Christopher Wray, they said that the greatest threat in America is white domestic terrorism. So when I listen to people like Senator Tommy Tuberville talk about, getting rid of all Muslims in this country, as an African American, I then say, what about white Christians? Because when we look at violence in this country, mass shootings in this country, who typically commits them? And so I think anybody has to be very careful to not go down this path of, oh my God, all of them, when I, as an African American, who's also, Jillian, please allow me to finish. When I, as an African American, who's also a Christian, can literally look at the history of white Christians committing violence. And so what we cannot do is say, oh, it is the religion that's driving it, as opposed to it is these evil individuals. Piers, you properly talked about guns and how Australia, after that mass shooting, you said in the 90s, how they targeted. But the fact that they were successful should be a lesson to America. How about you also try that to deal with mass shootings in this country? And so it is wrong for us to go down this path of condemning an entire religion, condemning an entire group of people, whether they are Muslim, whether they are Jewish, whether they are Christian. What we have to recognize is there are evil people in this world, and our job is to root out evil and then how they impact people. But it's crazy to attack an entire religion and target all those people.
I agree with that. And look, Emily made the same point earlier because we were talking about it.
Senator Tommy Tuberville.
Yeah, but Emily.
Randy Fine.
Emily, here's the reality about.
Guys.
Here's the reality about United States, for example. You have roughly the same number of Jews and Muslims in the United States. It's about 4 or 5 million of each, right? In the UK, by comparison, there are as many Muslims in the UK as there are in the whole of America, but there are only 250,000 Jews. There's a massively disproportionate scenario in my country, which is why I think Jews in the UK and in London in particular feel particularly threatened when they see these large marches every weekend with people often brazenly taunting the Jewish community, or supporting Hamas or talking about a global intifada, whatever it may be. And we saw the same thing happening in Australia. And I do think it's really incumbent on governments that they have to clamp down on this openly threatening stuff in the streets towards Jewish people.
Excellent. So you heard what was said there. What are my thoughts about this? Well, I have to speak from my experience, right? In my experience, I view myself as a global citizen. So I've lived in various places around the world, visited various places around the world. And when you travel, you're generally going to run into all kinds of people, right? All kinds of people. And what you quickly learn is that a lot of the things that you see on television are not true about these places that you go to. TV can paint whatever picture it wants about a particular place, thing, or whatever event. But until you go to that place and see for yourself, your understanding of that thing is limited. And I think you have a lot of that going on here. I've traveled to countries all over West Africa. I've been to the Middle East. I've been to Jordan. I've been to Europe. I've been to Asia. I've been everywhere, right? And I've gone to countries that were predominantly Muslim countries. When I went to Jordan, it was a beautiful experience for me. Beautiful experience. I didn't have any issues. The people there were very, very kind, you know, and I was surprised based off, because when you listen to what's said about Muslims on TV, you would just expect you know, these evil people to be doing crazy things to you. No, right? Currently, right now, I'm living in Nigeria. Nigeria, the two dominant religions are Islam and Christianity. In the place that I'm living at, we're surrounded by a bunch of different families and all of that. You have Muslims and you have Christian families. My neighbor next door is Christian. The ones, the door over, not the door, the whatever, the building over, they're a Muslim family. And people are living in total harmony, right? People go to mosque and do all of these things. I'm saying all of that to say that if you just listen to these people, you will think that, oh my God, if I'm around Muslims, oh my God, no, that's not the case, right? Now, of course, you do have extremists, and I'm gonna get to that point in a moment. But what Roland Martin is saying, and he brought up an example with Christians, and he gave the example, which I thought was a good example. He's saying then that based on what he's saying, based on the example that he gave about the persecution of blacks in America, are we then going to say that all Christians are evil people? No, right? Of course we're not going to say that, right? But if we're painting with a broad brush, then we can look for various examples in history and events and things that occur and say, well, oh, look, all Christians are like this because this is what they're doing. He's essentially saying that it's not the religion, but it's the people. But I think is a little bit more nuanced than that, and it's not as simplistic as saying, oh, it's just no. Because in certain teachings in various religions, there are extreme aspects of it. I remember a story that I heard. I forgot what book it was in the Bible where they were talking about. It may have been the book of Proverbs, because I used to read Proverbs a lot. As a matter of fact, the way I read the Bible is I always read when I'm reading. This is just my system, and it works wonders for me. I read the book of Proverbs for wisdom. And then I read a book from the New Testament, whether it's Matthew, Mark, whatever. That's how I usually read the Bible. But I think it was in the book of Proverbs where they spoke about if your eye offends you, pluck it out or something. And some guy literally went out there and burst one of his eyes because he took the literal interpretation of it. Now, there are religions that have some very extreme views. And of course, they're extremists. Again, I live in Nigeria. There are a lot of Islamic extremists in the north where they kidnap women, children. These things are all true. But it doesn't mean that every Muslim you meet is like that. It doesn't mean that half of the Muslims you meet are like that. It doesn't mean that the majority of Muslims are like that. And that's the point that I think Roland Martin was trying to bring up. But extremism does exist. It does exist, and that's a real thing. In terms of the states, it's a very interesting thing. I don't know what it's like in the UK at various points in that show. You guys can go hunt it down and watch it for yourself. Piers Morgan was talking about how things are in the United Kingdom with the Muslims. I don't know what it's like there, but in the States, the United States is a very unique situation because it's a multicultural environment. It's a country made up of people from various backgrounds from all over the world, right? So is a little bit different there, right? And generally, when we're talking about cultural assimilation, I was just thinking about this to myself the last 2 days. And I was saying to myself, how important is it to you? I'm talking about myself now. How much does it mean to you in terms of cultural assimilation? I was going to discuss it with my wife, but I haven't had the chance to talk about it. And I'm like, okay, you have people from various countries coming in, for example, coming into your country. Is it important for you that they assimilate? These are questions I was asking myself, and I didn't really go through the mental gymnastics of really answering it. But I can understand the people that I think the people that are talking about cultural assimilation are those that are saying, look, when you come to, for example, America, we have a standard set of values. We have a way that we do things, and you should kind of adopt those things. And I get what they're saying, right? You don't want to, because if you try to shun those things that make that place what it is, then it's almost like as if you're in rebellion. Or if you go to a particular country where they have a certain a set of norms, and you're critical of it, oh, why do Americans do this? Why do they do that? Why do America? Then I would have an issue with that, because then the very next question I would then ask myself is this: why did you go to America? And one thing I don't like, and I'm going to be frank with you, and a lot of people do this, by the way, not just all people do this. I don't like the people that leave their home countries and go to another man's country and sit there and say how terrible that guy's country is. I don't like that. Do you know why? Because, my brother, if it's as bad as you're saying it is, then why'd you go? Then leave. Who forced you to go? Who forced you to go? Right? Don't go there and you're trying to make a better life for yourself and then spend the entire time criticizing, like, oh, these people are useless. These people don't have this. These people don't. Then why don't you stay your ass in that? Because apparently, for as bad or as useless or whatever it is that you're saying about this country, for as bad as they seem to be, there must be a reason that you're there. Do you see what I'm saying? There must be a reason. So I don't like those people. And generally what I do is, whenever I go to a place, and I've lived in different places, I don't criticize the people. If I don't like it, I leave. Literally. That's what I do. If I don't like it, I leave. There's a guy, I don't think he's Nigerian. I don't know where he's from. I always see him on TikTok. And he's in some European country. And I get it. You're dealing with racism and all of these things and all of these things. But the issue I have with this guy is that almost every single video he's doing, he's always complaining about the country. So it's like, man, just leave. Right? So I don't like that aspect of it. But at the same time, I'm not saying to you that, okay, if you come to America, for example, if let's say you're French, right? And I'm not going to say to you, you can't speak French. I'm not going to say to you that you're not allowed to eat French food or have French norms in your. No, I'm not. That's too much, right? Is it important that you speak English? Yes. Like, it literally is. You're in an American-speaking country, but it doesn't mean that, oh, you have to give up your cultural heritage. Oh, you can't do that. No, that's ridiculous. And frankly, Americans don't do that. Most Americans that come from other parts of the world, they assimilate. You'll see them going to basketball games, football games. Are those not American sports? You're like doing American things and all. But if you go to their homes, they may speak their language in their house. They may eat their food in their house. Doesn't mean they're not going to eat American food, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So for those people that maybe think that you should do that as well, I think you're being a little bit too extreme, right? But I do think it's a nuanced conversation. I think it's something that we should talk about. And I think one of the things that could help people expand their minds is to travel. TV is not going to do, if you're getting your worldview from other places around the world, predominantly from TV, you're doing yourself an injustice. You really, this is the power of traveling. If you can do it, do it. It opens your mind, right? So my only recommendation to people is just try, if you can, get on a plane once every year, once every 2 years, whatever, once every 3 years, go travel around the world, see different things, see different people. And I guarantee you will have a much more holistic viewpoint on some of these matters. You won't be as definitive as, oh, yes, they're right. These people are all bad. No, that's my take on it, right? But I do think it's something that's worth talking about. I thought it was a good show. So you guys let me know what you think about this in the comment section. I would love to hear your thoughts on this matter. And then we catch you guys on the next show. Peace.